Okay.
Okay, thank you, everyone. Thank you, Alex. So my name is Sherlene Rodriguez. My pronouns are she and her, and I'm the program manager at Green Village Initiative for our school garden program. And I'm also the supervisor for our 2 FoodCorps service members. Before we jump into the content, I'd like to walk us through our agenda and some housekeeping rules. I'll review our mission statement and introduce our team, followed by a beautifully written poem by Soulfire's farm Naima Penniman, followed by a team reflection on what food justice means to us. And then we'll jump into an introduction into what food justice is and some terminology, as well as the new lesson that we created to go along with our introduction. And it's going to be called Food Map, based on the concept of food access. Afterwards, we'll jump into reviewing some of our support and resources and announcements, and then we'll close up with a survey and Q&A. Next slide, please. All right, so as Alex mentioned, this will be recorded and posted on our website. So at this point, I ask everyone to please mute your mic, and if you feel uncomfortable being recorded, to please turn off your camera as well. If you have any questions during our workshop, please include them in our Q&A. Myself and Alex will be taking your questions and putting it in a Padlet, and hopefully we'll be able to share it out so that you can see some of the answers for reference later. And then at the end, as I mentioned, we'll be sending out a survey and it will be included in the chat. So we look forward to hearing back from you, your feedback, and of course, we invite you to make suggestions on any lessons or resources around food justice that you'd like to see on our website. Next, please. So Green Village Initiative is an urban agriculture organization in Bridgeport. Our mission is to grow food, knowledge, leadership, and community through urban gardening and farming to create a more just food system in Bridgeport. We recognize the importance of addressing the systemic inequities that cause poverty and hunger in our city. We are working towards a Bridgeport in which all people can access healthy, culturally relevant, locally grown foods at school, at work, and at home. Through our school garden program, GVI aims to boost teacher confidence and aid their ability to use gardens as an outdoor classroom. We offer skill building opportunities, experiential farm field trips, classroom tools, and gardening supplies.
Okay, no, he wasn't like that. He said he wasn't like that.
So at this point, I would like to introduce our team. Next slide.
Hello, everyone. I'm Misharo, School Garden Coordinator.
Hey, everyone. Thank you for coming. My name is Yadley. I'm a second-year FoodCorps service member at GVI.
Hello, everybody. My name is Vetiveah. I'm a first-year FoodCorps service member, also at GVI. And thanks so much, team, for the lovely intros. We lit. Now we will transition into our food justice poem. So this poem is called Black Gold. Performing it is Naima Penniman. She is the program director of Soulfire Farm. This poem is a dedication she wrote for Farming While Black, Soulfire's Farm, Practical Guide to Liberation on Land by Leah Penniman. This poem tells us some U.S. history of our food system and land justice through the voice of the soil. As you listen to the poem, please be open to whatever may resonate with you and share your thoughts in the chat.
I am evidence of love under fingernails, kneecaps stained from kneeling to pray, sacred remains of yesterday, fertile with future. I am musk after rain, soft, firm, unconditional embrace, bosom of returning. I am the earthen floor, slapped with soles of feet, origin story and sorcery. I am vast and cosmic compost, sand, silt, stone, composition of decomposed bones and primordial ferns, reborn. I am sun turned to rot, particles of stardust heaped in terracotta pots, this thing the living clings to, nascent seedling, ancient tree, this melanin-rich thickness, dripping mineral and mystery. I am galactic blackness, hummus of fecundity. I am mud clung to cassava root in the lower holds of slave ships. The soggy clay I raised up sugarcane, fed cotton profits of enslavement. I am arid trails, damp with tears of dislocation, earth snatched from Japanese farmers' grasp, thrust into concentration. I am gang raped by colonization, who changed his name to capitalism but retains the same enslavement, the erasure and breakage of all my relations for global market chocolate whose growers face starvation. I am the sweet smell of freedom. I am promise past plantation. The ground under Harriet's railroad, the cracks in pavement post-migration. I spawned the roots that pushed through shoots that subverted subjugation. I am loam lush with nitrogen in Dr. Carver's legume fields. I am the calcium in the Black Panther's free breakfast meals. I am cooperative acres, Fannie Lou Hamer made real. The once toxic lots, Hattie Carthen's garden plots healed. I am ashes of burned Monsanto seed stamped under the feet of Haitian revolutionaries. I am red hot from tomatoes from Taco Bell boycotts, fertilized by the fruits Immokalee farmers left to rot. I am proof of life after death. I am dawning from decay, mass graves in my belly, my open palms spawn gardens. Transmuter of toxins, cauldron of embryos, cradle of coffins, atmospheric alchemist sequestering carbon. I am bleached, stripped, strained by purveyors of pipelines and mountaintop explosions, erosion of homelands washed to oceans, borderlands encroaching. I am choking. I am swept up and stepped upon, guzzled by the gluttonous. I am paradise paved over, poison drenched, drained of sustenance. I buttress monocultures of monopolies to feed cultures of injustice. I am cultivated by machete. I am defended by cutlass. Silent utterance. I am thunderous. All these layers of concrete. I am under this. I am umber, ochre, saffron, crimson, cocoa brown, and ebony. I am gold, gold, gold. You are soiled, filthy, black dirt rich. You are soul, soul, soul. Take me in your palms. Breathe in my memory. Remember me. Fall soft where you belong, my seed. I need you. The future depends on me.
Oh, my goodness. This poem gets to me every time I hear it. I hope you guys were able to hear it okay. Please share your thoughts in the chat. If that poem was fire, please send some fire emojis. It was just so powerful. And I would just love to share my quick thought on it, what resonated mostly with me. I just love the ending lyric when she says, I need you. that is like the soil literally crying out to us, I need you. And then she says, the future depends on me. Like, oh my God, that's like a firm warning to take care of the land, to be good stewards over the land. And I just love that part. It's so great. So share your thoughts in the chat. If you would like a copy of the lyrics to this poem, please let us know and we can send you over a copy of the lyrics. And next slide, please. Yes, I love you guys' thoughts. Oh my God, yes, yes, yes. All right, so next we will hear some short stories from our team today about how food justice has impacted them. Going first will be Yadley, following will be Sherlene, Brianna, and then myself.
Hi, everybody. Thank you, V, for sharing that poem with us. We've heard it so many times at this point, but it still gets me every single time. So thank you for showing us that poem. And just getting into reflecting about food justice and what that means to me. Can you guys hear me okay? Okay. Just getting into what that means to me is pretty much just like a full circle of just how I was raised, and now being an adult, just seeing how food justice has really impacted me in my life from when I was younger to now. Being young, our family faced a lot of food insecurities, and I think that, like, in my head, I didn't realize that it was food injustice and how there was this system that was, you know, that I was pretty much in with my family. I didn't really know anything about it, but like as I kind of got older, it started making more sense to me that there is this food system that is so inequitable, and so many people, not even just me and my family, but so many people all over the country and the world also face these issues. So it was very relatable to me, and it's something that I have seen just affect me in my life throughout these years. But now being an adult and older, and now having more understanding of food justice and food injustice, and just like the work that I do with FoodCorps in Green Village, and currently right now I'm in grad school studying public health. So it's all just like a full circle of so many things that I've learned over the past few years, and how I can see it's created, or it's impacted me in my life. It now only just makes me want to continue doing the work that I do, and also creating change in communities, in my communities. Yeah, so it's all become a full circle for me now, being 23. Like, so I just want to continue doing the work that I do and making a change and impact. So that's what, you know, food justice means to me. I'll pass it over to Sherlene next.
Thank you. Yeah, yeah, the poem is, we've heard it a lot, and it's just so powerful. I take away more and more history, and just, it's beautiful. But food justice to me is me taking a stand and saying that food, especially whole, nutritious food, is a right and not a commodity to be traded. That's something that, you know, she pointed out in the poem. I feel definitely that I should be able to buy and possibly grow my own food if I wanted to, and not just be stuck with whatever is in the supermarket or whatever someone decided for me to, you know, to offer at my local grocery store or supermarket or whatever. Food justice is also health justice to me. Diabetes and heart disease have hit my family in pretty devastating ways. And I realized at a very young age that I needed to understand why in order to protect my own health. And I realized that food access, like what's available to me, directly impacts my wellness, and how I make both healthy and unhealthy or less than healthy food choices on a daily basis for myself and for my family. As a gardener and a farmer, I love to grow my own food, and I feel nothing tastes better than what I'm able to grow with my hand. It's therapeutic. It feeds my soul, and I feel like that that shouldn't just be a privilege. It should just be available and a right to everyone. So that's food justice to me. So I'll pass it on to Brianna. Is Brianna there? She had internet connection issues, so she may not be available. All right, we'll just continue.
Okay, sure. Did she by any chance share her reflection in the chat, or yeah, do we have that from her in the chat somewhere? If not, I can share mine.
No, I didn't see her thoughts.
Okay,
and she
no
had such
problem.
a beautiful statement to say too.
She sure did. She sure did. Okay, so I would like to share with you all where I got my first start in this work. I grew up in a slow southern city in Louisiana, not much of a farm gardening girl, picky eater. Yes, I know. I'm from a state where we have delicious food, a unique culture, and I was still a picky eater. But I rarely enjoy playing outside. So when my parents relocated us to Chicago, I accidentally volunteered at an urban farm in the middle of the city of Chicago. Never seen this before in my life. How can you have a farm in the middle of a vast city like Chicago? So at this urban farm, we grew lots of vegetables, had a farm animals. We grew vegetables in a raised bed, and I weeded the raised beds all the time, to the point where I eventually loved weeding. I love taking care of the plants, and I just love everything about this urban farm. This neighborhood that we were growing food in was facing a lot of environmental problems. One was lead poisoning that affected the children, and many adults didn't have access to fresh, healthy foods. So, it didn't have fresh access to healthy foods. And so this neighborhood was the smallest neighborhood in Chicago. And just like noticing their food injustices really catapulted me to study nutrition, food access, and understanding food apartheids in Chicago. So yeah, that's my quick story. Thank you guys so much for sharing your stories. And we encourage you all to share your story with food justice. We encourage you to share your stories, how you relate to food, as you begin to teach this work to your students. If your educators on the call, share your stories. Your message will inspire other students to get into food justice as well. And community leaders who are on the call, same thing, share your stories. So thank you. Next slide, please.
Share yes.
Awesome. Okay, great. So welcome again, and let's begin our brief introduction into food justice. So food justice and why it's important to teach it to your students and to the younger generation. Food justice is much more than just another buzzword. It's a movement. Food justice is social justice. It's my sweatshirt today. It's so much more than just another buzzword. When we think of social justice, we might think of people fighting, protesting, voting for equal rights, voting for equal opportunity, equal treatment, equal this and equal that, right? Well, you might find the same commonalities in the food justice movement as well. So we gave food justice a working definition. Practically, it is having nutritious food being easily accessible to any individual, regardless of their social economic status, their race, their class, or their location. As most of you already know, our food system is inequitable, which means it is unfair. It is unjust. So with that being said, you might agree that it oftentimes does not exemplify the definition of justice. Our food system as a whole has not been fair, equal to all, properly represented, culturally respected, affordable, or accessible to all. I can go on and on about that part, but we gotta move on. All right, next slide. Cool. So what you're looking at here is a word diagram that I made up. These are some common words, terminologies, concepts that you will find within the food system. So when understanding food, the food justice movement, you're gonna like know here and want to understand some of these terms. So I kind of like put them in a word diagram, but it's not, these are not only the terms. So I should just say these are some, but not limited to, right? Within the food system and how the food system works. So at the top, we have food system, which is production and consumption. Over to the side, we have food security, which has 4 concepts: availability, utilization, stability, and access. If you follow the arrow going down to food justice, I want to explain that a little more. So food security or insecurity and food justice are kind of equivalent to each other. They have very similar definitions, but food insecurity from the USDA defines it as a lack of consistent access to enough food for an active, healthy life. So what I'm saying is food justice has taken on a more empowerment, progressive approach. It's basically the hands and feet of food security, right? So it has an approach that exemplifies equal rights to the food crisis, right to food, better safety nets, sustainably produced and local source food, agroecological based agricultural development. And I got that working definition from Foodprint. So as you're teaching the food justice series to your students, it's very important to expose them to these concepts, to these terminology, because they will eventually see this in their lives and as you progress with the food series. So you have access, affordability, nutrition, local food system, food waste, policy and action, and systemic racism. All right, next slide.
Awesome. So now we're going to talk a little bit more about why should you as educators in Connecticut care about this topic? Pretty much why are we here? These are just some facts that we have on this slide from FoodCorps. I'm just going to read some of them out loud and then get into like why this is so important and why should we all care about this. But Connecticut has one of the highest income disparities in the nation. Connecticut is also a leader in increasing access to healthy food in schools. And Connecticut is home to one of the first official food policy councils in the country. And in 2006, the state of Connecticut, their legislators passed some of the most rigorous school nutrition standards in the country. So just alone, those 3 facts really just goes to show like we are living in a state that is creating and taking initiative on creating nutrition standards and healthy food access in the school system. And lessons and activities that focus on food justice really do impact students and teachers and school administration in so many different ways that promote healthy and equitable changes. This movement specifically can improve nutrition education in young students and can encourage them to learn about the food system, so that way they know where their food is coming from and where they can access it. It's also allowing students, I feel, to think about solutions related to these social issues, so that they can participate in community leadership and advocacy for healthy foods in their neighborhoods and their schools. And just through this food justice series, because this is a series, through this food justice series, as educators, you might even notice that the students will be so inspired to be the change makers in their communities. And maybe even one day a student might want to work in with policymakers and create positive changes in the food system so that they can become more familiar with the terminology So I feel like that's why it's really important that we're all here today as educators. Well, many of us on this call are educators, and we see that there's also FoodCorps service members on the call too. So thank you all for being here, because it's really important that we're all here as educators trying to make an impact in this movement. So yeah, teaching food justice in the classroom just promotes knowledge towards making healthy eating choices. And we know that with FoodCorps, we do that in the classroom alone. And science lessons on ecology, being more practical about the curiosity and fostering that within the food system works that we do. And I feel like just overall students will just be inspired to explore more about food access and injustice in their communities. So it's exciting that we're all here. It's like crazy, there's 32 people on the call. So it's awesome that we're all here because I think we're gonna make really great impact in our classrooms. And the next slide, we are gonna get a little bit into the social and emotional learning piece that is definitely evident when it comes to food justice. It's helpful for students to feel like well nourished in order to focus and concentrate in the classroom. And the food justice impacts the experience in classrooms. So many students of all ages and even adults, we know this even for ourselves, but many students of all ages, it's really important part of their social and emotional well-being. Things such as like mental health and behavior can be linked to food insecurities. So it's important to be really aware of that for the students. And the lack of a healthy diet can also impose students from engaging in daily activities, or it can even be really difficult for some students to focus and be active throughout the day. Food affects our moods and regulations. There's many different things that have an impact on your social and emotional learning, and they're directly tied to food justice. So I think it's important to also remember that. And we do talk about social and emotional learning in our lesson as well. So keep in mind when we do get to that part of the lesson, just see how it all ties in, and how you can establish this in your classroom as well when doing this lesson. In the next slide, we have just some statistics. This is also from FoodCorps. 1 in 6 children struggle with hunger. And I think that us here at the Green Village Initiative School Garden Program, we can all agree that having school gardens in our communities across the city of Bridgeport really does help nourish students on a constant basis, and it helps balance the food system. And food justice lessons also provide students to learn more about food insecurity and where their families can access food or access school and community gardens as a place for immediate food access. So I think that that's really cool that we have so many school gardens all across the city of Bridgeport, and to know that students have direct access to a garden where they can grow their own food is really, it's so important to us. So I think that that's another important thing that we should all know about school gardens and how we can utilize them in our lessons more to really be part of this movement.
Yes, we have a question in the chat about the pandemic. I do have a quick status on that. Or I can share it in the chat. Yeah,
Oh,
I'll
yes.
write it. I'll write it in the chat
I
so we can
can
go on.
definitely, here, I'll read it.
Okay,
So thank you for remembering that. So 14 million children face hunger in the world as the COVID-19 pandemic drags on, resulting in continued school closure and the lost access of school meals. And child food insecurity is also soaring to levels we've never seen in modern times. Nearly 14 million children across the country are not getting enough to eat. So this is something that I even remember back in March when the pandemic first started. Is the first thing that everyone was thinking about was how are children going to get food, because if you know, students are getting 2 meals a day at school, and then all of a sudden, almost immediately, that shifted, and it really did create like this 1 in 6 number really just became so, I think it definitely increased for sure. And I think it really just goes to show like food justice and the access to food in school is so important. Um, so I just keep that in mind as well. Like during this pandemic, that's really affected so many kids, especially in Bridgeport and all different communities. Oh, next slide. I'm sorry.
All right. Where are we at here? Okay, can we go to the slide right before that one? Yes, food needs justice too. So we want to, so we want students to know that food needs justice too. If you think back on when we started the presentation, we were talking about social justice. Let's shed some light on food as well. So the next part of our presentation will showcase our learning series on food needs justice too. And I just want to say before we move on that as you as teachers educate your students about food justice, it will begin to expand. The students will eventually educate their families. We are hoping that families will come together with their communities. We're hoping that communities, members, and leaders will take this to elected officials. We're hoping that elected officials will eventually begin to write new policies, new bills, and it just goes upward to Congress from there. So we're really trying to change some of the policies and the laws that's governing our food system to be more equitable. So food needs justice too. All right, next slide. So welcome to our food justice learning series. So our first lesson will be on food access that we're putting together. This will teach your students important concepts that make up the food justice movement and the food system. So these concepts are, again, but not limited to food insecurity, apartheid, equity, school and community gardens, healthy foods and making healthy food choices, how racism impacts the food system, how to be young activists, and how to write to their legislators. It's important for your students to learn these concepts early on as they will hear these terms referenced throughout the series and lessons. And at some point, they're going to hear these concepts in their lives if they're not already seeing this now. The learning series will build upon concepts you see here on the side. And at the end of your series, at the end of this series, your students will be educated on how the food system works, aspire to become young food activists, use their school and community gardens as a place to grow their own food. Next slide. All right. So within the first lesson, you want to clearly define what food access is first, and that is determined by spatial accessibility and affordability to nutritious food sources within one's own community. Without knowing where to get food in your community or your city, it will further a cycle of unhealthy eating habits, and one might resort to always going to convenience stores to buy food or fast food restaurants. So we introduced this food access lesson to teach your students about food access, specifically in the city of Bridgeport, by using a hand sketched out map that you see on the right side there. So the goal of this map is to bring students awareness to where food places are near them. This awareness will expose where there are a lack of food access places in certain communities, which is an injustice, and we will love students to feel comfortable exploring that. So if you take a look at the map just really quickly, you can see that certain places are pretty populated with different food places. And there are other areas that maybe not so much. So we just want students to feel comfortable exploring why that is so. So the skill for this lesson will be spatial thinking, because they will be creating their own map. And the connecting activity, like I said, is creating their own map to locate where grocery stores are, food pantries, farmers markets, community gardens, convenience stores, any place where they think their family gets food in their neighborhoods and within their city limits. Next slide. All right, and so we'll begin to just see the 5 E's within the learning series. So these 5 E's will guide you into teaching the lessons step by step. The first E is engaged. So engage connects your students to what they're learning and helps them stay focused on the lesson. So get your students excited about food justice and food access in Bridgeport. This is where you really want to grab their attention. So in the food access lesson, like I said, you will introduce the map of Bridgeport, geographic pinpoints of a variety of food access places in the city. And then it's important to define to them what food access means when they're going through the lesson. And a pinpoint is a place on the map that helps them locate an area where food can be found. All right, and so here we'll play an interactive video that we've created for you guys to see the different types of food access places. We hope to create more of these interactive videos for different learning techniques.
Hey everyone, welcome to a new series called Food Needs Justice Too. First, let's talk about food system. Food systems is a cycle by how food is grown, raised, processed, packaged, distributed, sold, prepared, and consumed. So what is food justice? Food justice is a social movement with a goal to increase affordable access to healthy and fresh foods in all communities. The goal is to create a fair food system that supports the well-being of all people. In today's lesson, you will learn about food access, injustice, and a fun activity called mapping. But first, what is food access? Food access is when a person has the availability to buy affordable and healthy foods. There are many ways to access food all around the world and in your communities. Food access locations include farms, grocery stores, farmers markets, food pantries, community gardens, and school gardens. In today's activity, you will be given a blank map. This map is the city of Bridgeport. Your task in this activity is to locate as many food access points as you can in your school community and in the Bridgeport community. Think of all the places that are near you that are food access points. After you have located as many access points as you can, your teacher will show you the answer key and you will answer some critical thinking questions about food justice. Have fun on this activity. See you in part 2 of the Food Needs Justice 2 series.
Perfect, thank you. We can go to the next slide.
Hey everyone, welcome to a new series called Food Needs.
Perfect. So the next E is explore. So with explore, excuse me, I lost my slide. So explore is the concept that inspires students' curiosity, critical thought, and activates prior knowledge. So after you've gained your students' attention, you have defined what food access is as a concept, and you have expressed the importance of where food is located, where they can find food closest to them. Display the Bridgeport food access map in your classroom and make sure that it's visible enough for all your students can see. Here is where you can allow your students to think critically about what they see on the map. If they have questions or identify places that are familiar to them, talk about that. Leave that up for a discussion. So maybe they see like grocery stores in South End of Bridgeport, or maybe they are unaware of farmers markets in downtown. So this would be a great time for you guys to explore the map. All right, next slide.
All right, now we're gonna get into the explain portion of the lesson, and it's basically the portion where you teach students a new skill or explain a new concept. So after the students have seen the map and they've been guessing on like where the access points are in Bridgeport, you following up with this answer key that pretty much shows them where the actual food access points are. And these are real access points that we've populated, pre-populated, that will be in a handout with this lesson. And those access points include school gardens, community gardens, Reservoir Community Farm actually is on there as well, grocery stores, farmers markets. And so, yeah, I think those are like really great food access points. And essentially what you want to do in this portion of the lesson is having the students think critically about some of these questions that will be given to them in a handout. Some questions include, do some neighborhoods have fewer food access points than others? Comparing and contrasting how many local school gardens are around their neighborhoods and how many access points can they find in neighborhoods. So it's really just a critical thinking piece where they can really analyze and observe this map and trying to answer these questions, and also thinking about other questions too, like what modes of transportation do their families use when they are going to access these food places, or how long does it take to get to certain access points, and yeah, or the miles that are apart from one another. So things like that are just like really great critical thinking questions that students can, you know, use by just observing this map and trying to figure out some of these questions. In the next slide, we get into our next E, which is elaborate. And it's just to provide students with a chance to demonstrate this new skill or summarize what they've learned in this lesson now that they've gotten all this information. So you want to ask your students to have, if they have any actionable ideas where they can improve the food access that's in their school communities or in their neighborhood. And some of those questions you can ask are, what could we do to add more fresh food across our community? And just to consider any project-based ideas that can really make their thoughts become reality. So for example, you can ask students if they want to take part in a school project where they grow food in their school gardens and dedicate that food to donating to families, or to donating it to food pantries. Different ideas like that I think are like really great because it brings their ideas to life, and it also helps them become part of this movement in their communities to become leaders and change makers in their communities. So just giving them that time to elaborate on what they've learned and to also demonstrate this new skill by coming up with these project-based ideas that they can brainstorm together as a class. And the last E is to evaluate and reflect. And this is pretty much the end of this lesson. So what you want to do is help students grasp this new idea and this skill, but also reflecting on the essential learning questions. So to check their understanding of food justice and food access, and injustice as well. Some questions that are really great to ask are, is it fair for some neighborhoods to have fewer access points than others? Because it really does show that there is injustice in the food system. And what are some ideas that we can do to increase the healthy food access in our neighborhoods and in our school community? So it really just ties in the food justice concepts that they've learned, and the food access concepts. And then also with social and emotional learning, as we spoke earlier in this presentation, how important that is, just to check how they feel about this activity. Like, how do they feel identifying the places that they can get food? Do they feel that or how do they feel about growing food in their school garden as a way that they can increase food access. So I think that's like a really great way to just check how everyone's doing and how they feel about this lesson, because it's really important for the students to also have that social and emotional learning connection. But yeah, those are just some really great reflection questions, and there's going to be a handout with more of these questions on there that, you know, the students can write actual responses, and, you know, you can collect them as teachers if you would like. But yeah, that's the end of our lesson, our 5 E's. And next we just have some resources that Green Village Initiative will share with you all from the School Garden program. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Yaz. So yes, we do have some resources back in September of 2020 to help support teachers with virtual learning. We came together and launched a new website called our lesson plan toolshed. I will say right now that this week, I don't know, with internet difficulties, we're noticing some technical difficulties with our website where some lessons are available and some aren't. If there's a lesson that you see on there and you would like, we do have a hard copy so we could send it to you, just let us know. But I invite you to go look at it and check it out. All of our PDs and our new lessons are up there. This will be up there. This recording will also be posted on there and will be mailed out to you. As far as resources, GVI does help support schools by providing seeds, seedlings, soils, wood chips, compost, as well as volunteer days to help with cleanup in the spring and in the fall for growing seasons. So we are planning to host our first seedling drive in May, so just stay tuned for that. Details will be posted on our social media pages and will be emailed out to you. In October of 2020, we had a week-long event, and it was actually really cool because we had teachers come out and grab a bunch of greens and utilize their space more as a therapeutic way to get kids out into the garden. But it was just, they really appreciate it. So anyway, like I said, just stay tuned to May. And then for additional educational resources on like gardening 101, composting, edible herbs, edible weeds, you can find more resources at www.gogvi.org/learn. Next slide, please. As I mentioned, we offer resources. So what you can do if you were to go to our new website, if you clicked on GVI forms and resources, you will see a couple of links that to our request forms. So you can hit them, fill them out, and let us know what you need. There are actually a couple ways of letting us know. One is through the forms through our website. Another is emailing myself, which on the next slide you'll see our emails. You can email Misharo. And then, of course, every fall and winter, spring, we send out a checkout form to all of our school garden champions, just trying to understand what they need for the growing season. So those are 3 different ways that you can reach out to us to let us know what you need. In addition, under there, you'll also see some crop plans. So the drive that we'll have in May will focus on spring crops. Next, please. So as I mentioned, let us know if you're interested in becoming a garden champion at your school. So that what that means is that you will act as a liaison between your school and Green Village Initiative. We invite our school garden champions to participate in our school garden advisory committee, which was formed to, as a networking group to understand like how you're using your garden, what your needs are. And it's through that group that we've been able to get information to inform us on what type of PDs you'd like to see, what lesson plans you would like, and just better ways that we can support you. So if you're interested, drop your email in the chat group. You can email myself at Sherlene@gogvi.org. or Misharo at School Garden Coordinator at gogvi.org. Our next meeting will be held on February 4th at 3:30 p.m. I also want to give a special thanks to our team for putting together all the videos that you saw and this presentation, and a special shout out to our presenters, V and Yadley. They worked really hard on putting this together. This was they're really passionate about the topic, and I just want to say thank you for sharing your passion and your knowledge. The last announcement that I have before we jump into questions and the survey, I just want to let you guys know that end of 2020, GVI moved, so we're no longer at Lafayette. Now we're at 135 Clarence Street in Bridgeport. So yeah, thank you everyone for joining us, and we'll move on to question and answer, and we'll drop the survey in the chat. So let us know what you think, and thank you everyone. Also, if anybody wants to reflect on the poem by Naima, we invite you to tell us what you think. If anyone wants to share what food justice means to them or their experience, we also invite you to share.
We have a question from the chat. Do the lessons cover food waste, regrowing food, and scraps?
Yeah, I can answer that. Definitely. We have a couple lessons on food waste, composting, and we are looking to do a couple of workshops for this year. And that's actually something, we don't have a specific workshop on growing food from scraps, but it's something that we talked about, so that might be coming up. So thank you for asking that.
We also did, V and I actually also did a workshop not too long ago, or was it that? I don't remember when it was, but we did a workshop on composting food scraps and different techniques and methods of composting. So if you want to check that out, I think it's on Green Village Initiative's website, right? I think.
Yes, the workshops that were done, you can find on our social media page on YouTube, Green Village Initiative, and you can go to www.gogvi.org/learn, and all the videos are there as well. Misharo, can you put the survey in the group chat? Hi, Jason. To answer your question about FoodCorps lessons, no, the lesson plan, well, we have adapted lessons from FoodCorps there, but we have a bunch of lessons from other organizations as well. It's they've all been curated, so there's a little bit of everything on our website. I can add, I think if you go to FoodCorps website under resources, they have a guide of a bunch of lessons that they've made public as a result to support teachers' virtual learning experience. So there's a bunch of FoodCorps lessons that they've made public that I can find and drop it in the chat. Oh, so perfect. Thank you, Catherine. So Catherine's the program manager for FoodCorps Connecticut. So if you have any questions, you can ask her too. But thanks, Catherine. And thank you, FoodCorps, for representing. Love seeing all you.
Woo, 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 woo. Thank you guys for showing up. Really appreciate it.
Yes, Food Court Connecticut showed out today.
Y'all deep. Y'all deep. Thank you. Deep.
I was like, oh my God, yeah, we live.
Yes. We see you.
Oh,
We see you.
860.
I love it.
Oh, thanks, guys. Yeah.
Well, thank you to everyone who asked us some great questions. I'm just scrolling to see if there are anyone that we've missed. Yeah, some great questions. Thank you so much. All right, so we'll close out. We're 1 minute over, but thank you everyone for coming out and supporting. We hope you walked away with some new information, and I hope you will be able to use the lesson in your class. So thank you, everyone.
Yes, I
Thank
want to
you.
also say thank you so much too for showing up. Really appreciate it. I don't know if everyone saw my comment in the chat. If you need support teaching this lesson, Yadley and I are available to co-teach. So yeah, save our contact and we'll be happy to co-teach with you guys. Thank you so much for attending.
Thank you, everyone. Bye.
Bye.
Bye, everybody.
Bye. See you next time.
Yes. Bye.